We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce. Fli-City got some dogs in it, dogs in it, dogs. Fli-City come off authentic, authentic. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce. We light it up like sauce in the sauce in the sauce.
My city experiencing a transition from penny pinching, maximizing our dollars, multiply triple digits. I came a long way from baby jars in a project kitchen.
Hello, hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, wherever you are around the world. I know y'all missed us. We got our beautiful sister. We definitely have missed our community. And by popular demand, we definitely have missed our queen here. Satara is in the house. You know me, wonderful, amazing Mr. Hubert Roberts. Naeem Roberts, chairman of Black Lives Matter. Again, we want to greet our community.
Peace, love, and light. I have missed you guys, but as requested, I'm back.
And again, being back, we have reformatted a few things. The topic of our show
and series
is
hard conversation.
So when you say hard conversation, Queen, what does that really mean? What does that entail?
Hard conversations can be a multitude of things.
Okay.
It could be dealing in fact, not feelings, and definitely accountability.
Oh, okay.
Accountability for each other, accountability for ourselves, and just accountability for us as Black people as a whole.
Okay, so when you say that, what is the most important thing do you think that we, as a podcast, can really add to Flint locally? What do you think our purpose could really be to make a real impact?
I think foundationally is offering some help and healing.
So help and healing. Now, what do you specifically, or are you thinking broader? So what are you saying?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Because specifically we need some healing because we have been dealing with 11 years with unclean water.
Yes, ma'am.
And despite what anybody says, the water is still not clean.
That's right.
Let's be clear on that.
Okay.
So, that is a conversation that we continue to have. We can't just tap dancing and tiptoeing around it, right?
Okay.
And so some healing as far as that, because people are still suffering. People are still suffering, and there's a lot of residuals that's coming from that. People are still dealing with skin issues, right?
That's right.
There's still some mental incapacities from that. So there's a level of healing that comes from that.
Okay.
There's also a level of healing that comes from, even if we talk about even way back then, General Motors moving out.
Okay, yes.
Because this was a very profitable city and a very sustainable city within ourselves because of GM, and it allowed us to be great in all wards.
Yeah,
North, south, east, and the west.
That's right.
So when we talk about healing, because that did some detrimental damage from then, General Motors moving out. So we can even talk about that and the healing from that.
Now it's good that you mentioned that because we definitely want to make sure we put things in context, and we want to always make sure with a hard conversation. I'm just thinking about making sure we get context where we can give real, honest history.
Right.
Because when you just mentioned about, General Motors being the plantation owner and being the mothership for all of the other suburbs around Flint, Michigan were developed because of General Motors, number one. Right. And then when you talk about accountability, what does that really look like? And so I asked a question about what does it look like, because do you think that in 2025, we just want to be entertained, we don't want to feel, and we don't want to do the work? Because so often when you think about TikTok, Facebook, and all these other mediums or these other platforms that our people are engaged in, we're going 11 years being poisoned. We keep circling the wagon about our community being broken. You mentioned about those children that were 9 and 5 years old at the time on the onset of the poisoning of the water. Many of them are teenagers and young adults today, and they're having behavior problems. And most learning problems. Yes, ma'am. And most often, what systems want to do is lock them up or kill them.
Or give them a pill.
Or a pill.
To continue to poison them.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's all poison. Right?
So I'm adding that into, you're saying what our format is going to look like.
Yeah.
You know.
I think we need to have the level of accountability with each other, starting with not protecting and taking care of each other. Because there are some times that there's a lot of backbiting and things going on, and people will say something with you not being privy and you're not even in the room.
Yes, ma'am.
But if I am loving on you as my counsel, as my mentor, as my elder, and most importantly, my friend and my family, then I should be able to say, hey, either we call Brother Robertson, we get him in the room.
Yes, ma'am.
Or we get him on the phone, or we invite him to the conversation. This is something he's not here to defend himself, so we should not be doing that.
Okay.
I don't think we do enough of that.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then the other accountability to that is that we don't fact check. So somebody can say anything and we'll be like, and we'll take it and run with it. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Because my big mama always say, a lie don't care who's telling. So it doesn't matter who's telling the lie as long as it gets out.
Yes, ma'am.
And so when it does, it's just like that game of telephone we used to play when you were a little girl or a little boy, you know, in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, they play telephone. You tell one person something in their ear, and then you have to tell the other person, and by the time it gets back, it's something totally different, or it has embellished so much. And you're like, where the heck did that come from? All I said was, the sky is blue. Now it's blue and it's falling, and there's a spaceship in it. Like, it's just so many things, right? But we don't fact check. Now, so then we're based on feelings and not.
Okay, so and again, I'm sorry to cut you off because I wanted to be on point because, you know, what is it really going to look like to our community? Because I think we want to be clear about our conversation and making sure we're doing some work and encouraging a movement behind work. So you just said about someone saying something or disparaging a person's character, or dealing with, let's say, politicians. We're going 11 years without being healed from being poisoned. And then you had these politicians and these people at every level that are not being held accountable. Are we going to challenge our community to hold these people accountable? Is it going to be some area where we're going to engage in facts as far as how we're going to think about moving the city? Moving our community? Are we going to be honest about our pastors in the community? What is going on with our pastors in our community? And what does that leadership look like as far as where are they? Because it seems like many of them are quiet.
So, I agree. Starting with the watering politician, or even starting with ourselves.
Oh, okay.
I remember that when this all blew up, I was saying, and I know you remember me saying this, and I said, we all need to band together. We have to be together. Everybody stop paying the water bill.
Yes,
they will have no choice but to fix it.
Right.
Because everybody stop. Put the money in escrow.
Right.
And say, hey, once you fix this water issue, and you fix my pipes, not only out there, but in my home, when we fix all of this, the money sitting right there, you can have it. But stop paying the water bill. Just put it in escrow. Because why are we paying for something we can't use?
Exactly.
Brother Roberts, you wouldn't go buy a comb, would you?
No.
Okay.
I don't have hair.
I'm just
I want hair, but no, I'm just
but do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm clear.
You wouldn't go to the beauty supply store and buy a comb.
No, ma'am.
Right?
No.
So why even buy something that you can't use? Right? Yeah. So I'm not going to continue to pay a water bill for some water I can't use. And in the beginning, when this first happened, and they were saying, we're going to cut it off. Why do you care? Right. You're buying water to bathe in, to brush your teeth, to drink, to cook, and all of those things. You're not using it anyway, so why do we care? Right. So if we would have all band together and done that, just like they did in the Montgomery bus boycott.
Yes, ma'am.
They all band together, and for over a year, they said we're not riding this bus, and it hit their pockets hard.
385 days.
Hit their pockets hard.
Hard.
And so what happened? They had to come to the table with a different conversation.
Yes, they did.
With a different outcome.
Yes, they did.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
But that's the same things that we should be doing. Those are the things that we should be doing. So that's an accountability piece for ourselves in our community, and not coming together and collectively saying, we are not going to take this foolishness.
And when you say the foolishness, and then when you look at the data or the data, however you want to pronounce that word, and let's go to voting. Because we're voting at less than 14 and 11%. So are you thinking the bigger, the micro, and then the macro, when we dealing about what level of impact is our platform, our conversation is really going to have as far as moving our community? Are we going to be intentional?
We have to be intentional. And so we have to be intentional with bringing the facts of how your vote does matter. Because everybody thinks their vote doesn't matter. And that's their stance on why they don't do it. Or I'm not voting because I don't like either one of them. But no vote is a vote for the opposition, right? So, but we have to bring the facts to show how the vote really does count. Your vote does count. Your one little vote counts, or how the vote does matter. And more importantly, how the Black vote matters.
Okay.
Now, we definitely have to do that.
Now, when you say the Black vote, I think, why do you think Black people are so ashamed to mention Black? And then with Flint being 57% Black, but a lot of time we have discomfort in conversation about thinking about the needs of Black people. Why do you think that is, number one? Then my other caveat to that question is, why is it when you look at what just happened with Trump being in office and all of this trauma that people are dealing with, what is the mechanism, or what do you think people need to do in Flint? Because we need to kind of double down on what we can do locally. So help us in that area.
We have always been afraid to be Black.
Okay.
We have always been afraid to boldly be Black. That's a thing in itself. You know, skin lightening, straightening our hair and things like that. We've been been afraid to boldly be Black. That's the first thing, right?
Okay.
The second part about that in boldly being Black is that we don't embrace each other, like, because even in my own family, some parts of my family I'm darker than some of the others. It's not like I'm extremely dark, but I am darker than some of the others. Right? My grandmother was light. You know, my father was light. I am not. So that's the thing, right? And so sometimes it happens in your family. I didn't get that per se in my family. They embraced me, but I did get that in the community. I did get that in school. I got that. So, you know, being Black. The second part to that is that comes again with, like you said, with the pastors. Let's put that in there, because they were boldly and proud to be Black, and they made sure that we band together, right? Because if you remember, in fact, and I'm sure that you remember, being that you are an elder, of when they decided that they were going to say, if they say, you know what, DeJuan Robinson is going to run for him, and we all going to be behind him. Right. That was the conversation that we had in the kitchen or a living room or wherever, and they got together, right? And then what happened? They got on the phone and they said, "Hey, I know you wasn't at the meeting, but we going with DeJuan." Yes. Right. And that was a thing. And so they continued to do that, and so we band together and we collectively had it. But with that being said, we had. This is what we want you to do while we're in there. Yes, ma'am. Now, if we're going to band behind you, these are the things that we need in our community. Yes. These are the things that we need to happen and what you need to fight for in order for us to have them. Okay. Now, if you're not going to do that, then you can't be behind. Okay. We're not demanding that. We're asking politely. We're begging. Right. Why? They work for us. Right. And with that being said, that's the reason why I think that, I think that they're looking at from the top being the president. Okay. Trump,
Mm-hmm.
and whomever else was before it, Biden,
Mm-hmm.
Obama. We're looking at the top, which is all a trickle down to us. And by the time it gets to us and affects us, it's not happening the first day.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But we're not looking at the bottom where we are, which is in the local, which is the most important for us that affects us immediately. That happens right now.
Okay. Okay.
Like the garbage, for instance.
Right.
When we had that whole big debacle about the garbage.
Right.
That affects us right now.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't be worried about who's going to be in prison when I can't worry about who's going to pick up my daggone trash on the corner, right?
And even when you think about that, it goes to show you about our inability to really heal our community because we sold that out because of bad leadership. So again, I'm saying our conversation will be in many different levels because of the hard conversation. Because do you think our community don't want to know, are afraid to know, or are so emotionally distraught is why we in the situation that we're in?
Some of that, and also the people that just go along to get along, or the ones that are afraid to hold their people accountable.
Now, when you say that, and you probably have listened or watched a lot of the national, local, or different kind of podcasts, Facebook, TikToks, a lot of these different areas dealing with love and hip hop or whatever entertainment may be. What can you think we can do that could really, really spark the minds of our community that's going to develop a groundswell of action? You know, I think that's what is needed as far as what I'm thinking. And I know sometimes people talk about, as you said, about some generational inflection, but even when you think about being an elder, being younger, younger, or however we want to define age. But when we are dealing with humanity and what humanity looks like, or what community looks like, or what business looks like, or what legacy looks like, or what wealth or worth look like, it goes across age. It has to be an element where we are saying to our community and giving our community information to challenge, to encourage, to motivate, and then take action.
You just said it. That's exactly what we need to do.
Okay.
We need to then factor in the history.
Okay.
Because the history shows. If you don't know the history about it, how can you be? Okay, we talked about this before. How can you be so bold and be proud to be Black when you don't even understand being Black?
Oh.
Or understanding even where you come from, right?
Okay.
We had a conversation when I said, my son asked me, how did it, because he said, how did you become this big revolutionary? Like, he's so militant. Like, where did this even come from? Well, first of all, my father, and even though I lost my father young, when I was 7, he was very adamant in being Black and those things like that. And he was actually a part of the nation. So, he's very militant in that part of the military, right? Yeah. Because it's a military, let's just be clear, right? And so, but like I told you, I remember summer of 1989, Public Enemy had this song. Yeah. Right? Fight the Power.
Okay.
And when that song came out, and I actually listened to it, it was the very beginning of the song where I can't remember his name. I should have looked it up. I didn't even realize I was going to say this today. But there was the attorney from Chicago. Yeah. Todd. His first name is Todd. You can look it up. Look it up. Everybody look it up. Look it up and listen to it. Yeah. And he, in his opening statement, and what he said was what perked me up. Yeah. To even pay more attention to the lyrics of the song. So then with that, then it makes you go down a rabbit hole. Yeah. So then I go down a rabbit hole because I wanted to know the reason why he had that speech.
Yes. Okay.
What was the reason why Public Enemy was coming out and saying this, and why they were saying this, and what was happening? Yeah. Where did it come from? Which it was inspired by the Isley Brothers
song
of the same name of Fight the Power and why they had it. Right? It was a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But then when you look at the history and where we had been and what was happening and why they were saying that, what I thought then was, why are we still talking about that right now?
Yeah. Wow.
That was before I was born. Even though I was young, I'm not saying it like I was old. We was 89. I was born in 76.
Come on,
it was 89.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
And I'm just like, what is happening? Why is this still happening? So that sparked something in me to say, oh no, this can't keep happening. Like, I don't want this to be happening for my children.
Yeah.
And it is happening for my
children. Come on now.
It's 2025 and we're still fighting the power.
Still fighting the power.
Right?
Yes.
But we're not collectively doing it together. We're not doing it in the droves that they were doing it.
Thank you.
Because why are we having the same energy as the Black Panthers? Listen, this is what I do understand.
Okay.
I understand that everybody's lane is their lane.
Okay.
Some people are not frontliners. Some people are not as vocal, right? But we still need administrators. We still need critical thinkers.
Right.
We still need the ones that can walk softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We still need all of that.
Right.
We need soldiers.
Right.
We need all of that. And knowing your lane and knowing the part that you play in that is key and it's critical, but know that everybody has a position.
Yes.
That's the thing, and we don't remember that everybody has a position.
Okay.
But play your role, right? I know that I'm a little bit vocal. I know that I unlike some of the other women, I say there's a lot of them that will.
Yeah.
I'll frontline it.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
But that's my personality. That is my that's where my mentality is at. So I'm Black Panther part.
Yes.
Right? Some of them can go to the Martin part. Some of them can go to the Malcolm part. Put me in that part.
Yes,
right?
Okay.
Because that's where I'm at and I'm willing to. And so, but I learned that history and I looked at the history, and the history is what taught me to be proud of me. To be proud of being Black.
Okay.
To be proud of being the one that is the most hated. And why is that? Because we are the most precious.
Yeah, I love it. Most precious.
And so that is what sparked me. And so it's always been a thing for me. And so I am very bold in it. Yeah. I'm very much pro-Black. Right. And I do it all the time.
Well, in saying that, I've heard you say a few times about you being in Switzerland. And I'm bringing up this part of our conversation because to be able to develop and what we're hoping to bring to our community, there's going to be two parts as far as a hard conversation and then action. Because even when you think about the engagement of those individuals that are gatekeepers and have positions of power, would it be something that our platform will be inviting people in from across a wide section of our community, no matter their political background or persuasion may be, or are the tenets of this hard conversation is going to be somewhat one-sided? What do you think? What is the focus?
Absolutely not. And I always say I'm Switzerland because I deal in fact, not feeling.
Oh.
I deal in fact and
not emotion. That's what you mean when you say Switzerland.
I'm Switzerland.
Okay.
Because I deal in fact and not emotion. And because I feel a way about somebody doesn't make it a fact, doesn't make it true, right? And so I have to learn to differentiate.
Oh, okay.
Between the fact and the. I could not like you because we had an altercation or something. However, the fact may be fighting the same fight as me. And even though we may have that difference, we still have a common ground that we can come together on.
Okay.
So we have to learn how to set that to the side. That's one thing we don't do.
So when you say setting that aside, so would it look something like this? So if a member came in or a person is in power, we invited them into our show, and we're having a conversation around a policy or a vote. And they chose to vote a certain way that was detrimental to the community or the residents. Is that open for a conversation to ask them why? And how do we move in that as far as they're saying they're going to get something else down the road as far as, well, I couldn't do it then. But how do we hold these people that has the power, as you said earlier, You said, up at the White House, and then money trickles down to the local community and back based on tax dollars. And so what does it look and how will we be moving to really impact our community, to educate, to inform, and to motivate, where they have an understanding that they have the power, as you said about the bus boycott, when you know that your dollar is your power. So how are we, or what are you thinking about, how is that going to be interpreted, and how are we going to be able to move to generate some real action?
So I think that is the problem, that we're not having a conversation with the people that are not voting the correct.
Now say that again. What do you mean by that?
The problem is that we're not having the conversation with the folks that are supposed to be voting in a way that's beneficial to us.
Okay.
By either not voting.
Okay.
Or voting with the opposition.
Okay.
Going along to get along.
Going along to get along.
Because a lot of times when people are getting into these positions just for the check or just for the money, because you have to think about it, like when you are getting into, let's say, the state rep, for instance.
Okay.
Those are $100,000 positions.
Right? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Some people have never seen 6 figures before.
That's right.
And so,
most people in
or they get the 6 figures because it's easy money per se. Because you can go up and you can vote however you want to, whether you research it or not. But I think that you're doing a disservice to the community. You're just doing a disservice to the people of your race or whomever that you decided that you were going to protect and fight for, when you don't even research it and you just voting however willy-nilly just because somebody else did it. We are afraid to be bold, and we are afraid to go against the grain.
Yeah.
Just because everybody is saying that, you know what? This looks orange. That's orange.
Yes, ma'am.
And because you're afraid to hold that person accountable by saying, you know what, brother, you might be a little colorblind. You might want to get that checked out. That's not orange. That's red, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And even though they know that it's red, that's their friend.
Yeah.
Or that's their cousin or whatever.
Okay.
And I'm a stand beside him, whatever. No, it's orange.
That's
no,
critical.
It's red.
Yes, that's critical.
And I'm going to continue to say it's red. I don't care how you feel about it. The fact is that it's red. Let's look at the tag. The tag says it's red. What do you want me to do about it?
Right. Okay.
Those type of things. And we're not holding people accountable and saying that. And so that's the go along to get along.
I see.
So we're going along and saying that it's orange just so we can get along with that person because it's their friend. We don't want to rock the boat. Well, I'll rock it till I tip it over if that's the case. But we have to be bold like that. But you have to be bold and take a stance. Why are you? Well, you're not gonna fight for anything, so you're just gonna let it happen.
Okay.
And then you're just going to let it affect you in a negative way, and then you're gonna complain about it, but you're not gonna do any fighting about it. We're gonna complain about the water, but we're gonna continue to pay the water bill. We're gonna complain about. We're gonna complain about
no jobs,
and we'll continue to let the state rep vote or not vote in the opposite way. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
She's a very nice lady. I know her. My children play basketball together. She's a very nice lady. I don't have any attacks on her personally. She's a very beautiful lady, right?
Yeah.
But not in the political sense.
I get you. So when you mentioned that, I think that's something that I'm hoping that we can have a clear understanding, because one, I've noticed that in the past with Eric Mays and how Eric Mays blew up around the world. Around the world, Eric Mays blew up point of order and the dysfunction. Now, why I'm asking you this question, Queen, is what can we bring to this platform that's going to spark, that's going to engage our community in a way where we will be inviting people from a cross-section that we may not rock with, but wanting to hold them accountable. And even when they leave and behaving out in the public or in different avenues, holding them accountable. And number one, we're not lying on them, that we are engaging in facts about their behavior, how they move. But the real issue is, how do we get people to move away from this separatism, and we are working together to build some energy in our community to affect healing and change.
I think
But what I do want to caveat that with, in a spirit that most people are engaged in mess. We in a spirit of just mess, clickbait, arguing, fighting. It seems like the arguing and the stupidness get all the attention.
So we have reality shows to thank for that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Remember that all started from the Actors Guild on strike, and I remember they weren't doing any shows, so the reality series came up, right?
Right.
But they didn't miss,
right?
Soap operas didn't miss. That's just been a thing. However, I think that we always have to have the opposition at the table to have a conversation. I think we always need to invite them to the table to hold them accountable, but to ask them why. Give us the why.
Okay.
Even if the why for me could be, I just don't like you because you're black. That's a why.
Yes, ma'am.
So then it makes me understand why you vote for things that go against black people. Okay. You can say that. I respect that. But you can be honest about it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you can only respect honesty, right?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So and that's fine if that's your stance. But then I'll go even further and say, well, why not?
Yeah.
Was that a thing that you were taught?
Okay.
Did someone tell you that you weren't supposed to? Or did something happen traumatic to you that gave you a complex, and it's a trigger for you?
Okay.
But why can't we? But those are the things we have to do. So, right? So then we can understand a little bit better, right? Yeah. But I think in that understanding, for people to see that and to hear that and to know that, will give them a little bit better of understanding on why they should not.
I love that. And I think why I'm bringing this up is, to me, it seems like people have a hands-off attitude when it comes to clergy. And a lot of times they throw God in it. So I'm thinking of how are we going to move our community, because our community is still about 52% dealing with people, baby boomers, and those that are really Christian and have been indoctrinated by the church in this community. And then how are we going to be moving, and what is your thinking behind engaging the clergy community? Because throughout our history, they have always been at the foundation of any movement or anything that's going to have resolution to impact our community to be healed.
So, I am glad that you said that.
Okay.
And I remember even coming up and how prominent the clergy was.
Okay.
Because if you were not a member of Antioch,
New
Jerusalem, Fourth Avenue,
Avenue,
Christ Fellowship, or Metropolitan,
oh really?
You wasn't in the know.
That's it. That's the strong.
Those were that was it, right?
Pitbull.
So I grew up at Fourth Avenue with Dr. Avery Aldridge.
Okay.
God rest his soul, was a great man.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
And I continued to go to church when I was going to church.
Okay.
His son, Derek Aldridge, my man, 100 grand. Love him to death. Love him to life.
Okay.
My friend.
Yeah.
My family.
Okay.
Even though I have, that's a different conversation. However, he came on the podcast when I was doing my own podcast. He came on the podcast because I asked that question. See, I think that people are afraid to challenge a pastor's thinking.
Yeah.
Not challenging a bad way where you are disrespectful or anything like that, but challenge to why you aren't moving like we used to move.
Okay.
So my question is what happened?
Yeah.
Who dropped the ball?
Yeah.
Because there was a thing, like the National Baptist Convention. I remember because my Reverend Dr. Alfred A.C. Robson, rest his soul. I called him grandfather. My mom took care of him, and he taught me a lot. He was very knowledgeable, not just in the Bible, but in life, right? Because he had dealt with so many things, and he was very knowledgeable in life. And I was sitting there, and he would talk to me about a lot of things. So I have a lot of knowledge of things and how to move and thinking. And he was the one that taught me that I should be moving in fact and not feeling. Yeah. Sometimes you have to deal with people that you don't want to deal with because of that. But they were moving in the city in a way that was banding us together. Right? Okay. And they were together. They were banded together.
Okay.
But then,
so when you say they, you're saying pastors?
All the pastors, like Reverend Randolph and Pastor Robs and
Pointer.
Pastor, yes, all of them, right? We all know how close they were. Or if you were coming up in that area, you know how close they were. If you were in that crowd or whatever, or your family was, right?
Okay.
But those things that they were doing to make sure that the community survived was impeccable, like False Avenue when they started their own bank.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
Or credit union.
They were credit union, right.
Or when they had the Dairy Queen and everybody was looking at the Dairy Queen,
right.
You just have to think about that, and they were thinking about the Black dollar, and they were thinking about community.
Yes, ma'am.
They were thinking about jobs, and they were thinking about, but we also have to remember that they were coming up in the era of civil rights as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that was a thing for them.
Right.
But I wanted to know where the ball got dropped and why we aren't doing that, and why Derek Aldridge, which was my pastor, why are we that strong and involved in it as well? I asked that question of him because he was my pastor and my counsel as well. But why aren't we doing that? What happened? And I would like to ask everybody that, like, why aren't we doing that? But we would in turn backbite. We would in turn think that the money was bigger than the community. We would think that the getting a grant from someone to make our church a mega church is bigger than the community. And that's not the case. They did. So False Avenue, I'm only sharing this history because that was my church. I can't speak on anybody else's history in the church.
Right.
But it started in a little house.
Right.
It started in a little house.
Right.
My grandmother was one of the four family members that was there at the little house. And it grew to the whole block that it is, right?
Yeah.
But it grew to that. But it didn't come from just being greed and everything else. They were thinking about community and all those other things, right? And so I don't understand why we don't challenge the pastors enough, because there are, everywhere you look, it's a daggone church somewhere around here.
Now, when you say that, and I want to pose this to you in a respectful manner. So, one, did Derek give you an answer? Two, do you think church or the concept of pastors have become a business? Do you think our community have been burnt out because they have been told with Dr. King, I've been to the mountaintop and pray and morality, and we are here 2025, and we are almost in a worse state than we ever been in as a community? I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I'm just asking you, did he tell you why? And then do you think part of the functioning or the breakdown or the hopelessness of our community is because there's no hope, because there's no real morale based on the conversation or the ministers in this kind of community working together to bring light and to bring hope based on action?
He did answer me, and he said that the ball was dropped and the baton wasn't passed.
The baton wasn't passed.
So there was a lot of, as people are starting to get older, they weren't grooming other people to do it. So the baton wasn't getting passed, which sometimes now why you can see that people are outsourcing to bring another pastor when one passes, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to you grooming and setting this next one up, right? Because that was my question. Why wasn't the baton passed? So why aren't we seeing the baton passing on who we are, like one of the deacons or one of the assistant ministers that come up and doing that? Why isn't the baton passed? But not only the baton passed as far as like you taking over the church, but your mentality of community, of self, of even your clergy. Like I'm not saying to take out of it, but I'm just saying, like, why wasn't that passed? Why isn't the mentality of the civil rights and making sure that we are good as a community, why wasn't that being passed as well? My thought and my thinking was, not dealing in fact, this was only my feeling. And the reason why I asked that is because I felt like once you get to that level, mega churches and that, you get on your high and mighty.
Oh, yeah.
And so you don't want to pass the baton because you don't want anybody to take your thunder. Only my feeling. It's not a fact, which is the reason why I asked. because you're in that position, and I would like to ask that, because take that feeling away from me, because I don't want to feel like that.
Right.
But it is my feeling. You can't argue with nobody about their feelings, and that is my feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like for fact to come in to take that away from me, because why isn't it being passed?
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
And that is a question that I would like to ask So even I would like to ask Reverend Thurfield that.
Yeah. Right.
Are you grooming someone? Are you prepping someone for the next wave?
Yeah.
Are you grooming someone and continuing to have them acknowledge that we as Black people in our community, we need to do for self, and we need to do that? Are we doing that?
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing I can respect about the Nation of Islam.
Mm-hmm. Almost definitely. Right. They definitely do the ministry.
I haven't taken my shahada or done anything like that, but I respect it wholeheartedly.
Oh no, with the grooming and the mentoring and all those kind of things that are in place that are critical.
It is.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we're doing enough of that anymore. See, we used to do that.
Yeah.
We don't do that
Now,
anymore.
and why I'm bringing that up is I'm trying to get as much in dealing with our platform and us getting our foundation.
Yeah, and where we're going to go.
Where we're going to go, because, we want to be intentional.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that, one thing that we want to offer to our community, we're always going to leave, when we leave every interview, we are going to have guests. We want you guys to write in or chime in or how you guys engage on the platforms to ask us to be a part of the conversation and have suggestions. We do want to encourage and mention different types of music. We want to share some of our category or some of our catalogs.
Yeah.
Me and my queen have been going through some wonderful music. I've been impressed with some of her knowledge, and I think it's so important for our community to really engage in some level of music that you may have lost and forgot about, that may spark something in you. We're going to be sharing books. We're going to be sharing documentaries, different things that we hope that you guys will be engaged in to go research yourself, because there is a crime, or it's very disrespectful to gain all this knowledge. I don't care if you have a PhD, master's degree, or whatever you are engaged in, and you keep it for yourself. I think the Creator wants us to share as much of us that we possibly can, because you never know how it may impact another person. We also want to be giving our community homework. I think that's something we should be encouraging our community to engage in. And I think that also we want to make sure that we may have conversations around relationships.
Absolutely, we need to.
Mental health.
Mental health, for sure.
Those things are critical. Dealing with healthcare. I want to talk to our men.
Respecting our elders.
Respecting our elders. I want to talk to our men community. Dealing with, I've had to deal with prostate cancer. A lot of times, men, I don't want to talk about their phalluses or that area. We have been so screwed up into speaking or thinking that our manhood is what's between our legs, as a part of our whole being, and being nurturers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of times we live in pain, we live in sickness, because I don't want you to know what I'm struggling with.
I think we also, with that being said, when you speak about men and their health and things like that, I think we also need to make sure that we are saying that men, you all need to check your breast area as well, because men get breast cancer as well.
Oh, yes.
It's very much a thing, and it's being more and more common now than it probably has been in the past, which is probably the reason why we need to talk about nutrition.
Mm-hmm,
right? We need to make sure we do that, because there's some things in the food that may be attributed to this.
Oh, yes.
And the reason why, which is probably why I can't say, won't talk on it now, but I will make sure that I fact check that and we look at that.
Yeah,
but there could be some things, but we need to talk about that.
That's beautiful.
We absolutely need to talk about
Richard Roundtree, he died of breast cancer.
He very much did.
And I think that's important. I think it is contributing, because even when you think about the continent of Africa, 54 countries in the island of Madagascar, they have 0% of cancer. So that tells you something about us.
Why? They're not meeting
the diet.
They're not meeting
No, they're not eating.
Yeah.
But the diet, and then.
But the diet. But let's start with that.
But again, you got to remember, because for something to be in a food market, it has to have preservatives.
Absolutely.
So you think about preservatives, or the red, yellow, blue, and all these different dyes and things to preserve something on the shelf, and what that's doing to the human body is not natural, as opposed to it being fresh.
Well, let's even talk about going a step further and saying, yes, we have that, but all of those things are banned in other countries except for here.
Isn't that and that's another conversation? Hard conversation.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about the food industry, which is a multi-trillion-dollar business, along with the pharmaceutical, and all of them are engaged in foolery, lying, because a lot of these different things, if we did something that's simple, as opposed to trying to put a pill on everything and all those kind of things, this is why many people are sick today.
And I don't think that people put 2 and 2 together to make 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they come up with the, new math. You got to go a long way to get 2 and 2 and 4, right?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
I don't think that people put the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry are working hand in hand. Because if I can keep you sick with the food, I can keep you on to the pharmaceuticals.
Come on, man.
You're good, right?
Come on. Right. Because and then you think about even in the last 50 years with the level of diabetes, which at one time in the 30s was non-existent. Yeah. Now you think about that. But non-existent.
But think about the rate of it in the Black community.
Yeah.
Think about the rate of heart disease in the Black community. However, but think about it in the Black community, the percentage is much higher in women than it is in men.
Yeah. Look at that.
Why?
Why? And so
but it could be a lot of things.
Yeah, a lot of factors.
It could be a lot of factors. It could be stress. It could be all of these things at home and how they broke up the Black family dynamic. So now it's pressure on us.
All right. And many, and there's documentation on that.
Absolutely.
Because again, when we were stolen from Africa, most of the maladies that we are suffering in America can be traced back to being stolen and broken up as families, which it is today.
Absolutely.
It started from somewhere. We were minding our own business, and we are definitely going to be centering some conversation around that, because so often our community don't have a clue about their history and why we are in the condition that we're in today. And all we want to try to do is make sure that we give you guys facts where you can go and check what we say to you, because we want you to be able to share with other people.
And we want you to be knowledgeable, and not only just for other people, but for yourselves too. Because even if you think about it, you are one of the people that go into church. I remember my pastor saying, he said, you got to know it how they say you got to know Jesus for your own self, right?
Jesus for your own
That's
self.
what they said, right?
Yeah.
But you have to also know it for yourself. So, just don't take anybody's word for it. Show it to me. Where'd you get it from? So absolutely fact check things. So just don't go on people's word of what they say. I know sometimes it sounds good and it may even look good, but you do have to make sure that you are fact checking, especially when it's things that are going to affect you and your children and everything in the longevity of our community. Yeah. So we also have to be knowledgeable of that, and not only for yourself, but make sure that you're passing this down to your children and your grandchildren and just people that you meet wherever, because a lot of these conversations just happen by conversation, just by sitting next to somebody in the doctor's office, right? Or even on the city bus, if you ride the city bus, conversations just organically happen. But have something, some knowledge, some meat on the bone, right?
Some meat
to give somebody, so we don't have to.
I love that.
So we don't have to, just continue to talk about what happened on Love and Hip Hop.
We're not going to do that. Before we close out, we do want to say that we will be doing some remotes. You may be surprised that we may be talking to you, and we're going to ask everyday people to come on our show. Again, we want this to be family oriented. We want this to be a community effort.
Community hard conversation.
A community hard conversation. And we want to engage in our community in a way that's going to be different. We want to be impactful and intentional in our community and be something that's going to be vital. We want it to matter. We want it to be intentional, and we want it to matter. Before we close out, I'm going to say a few things before we close out. Then I'll let my queen say a few things. But I do want to let our community know we have some upcoming things for February at Black Lives Matter at our office here at 2712 North Saginaw. We are going to be having some Black History programming on every Friday. We want our community to come out. We will be working on a flyer to get the flyer out in the community on all social media platforms. And again, as always, we want to make sure that we are recruiting. We need our community to show up and be part of Black Lives Matter. You don't have to be afraid to be Black. A lot of times people complain in our community, nothing being done. We don't have no NAACP is doing nothing. Urban League is doing nothing. We don't have a real strong National African Network program here. But we do have signs of what others are committed to do in our community. They did build a detention center, $35 million for a detention center out on Pasadena Street to make sure they lock up Black and brown boys and girls. And so they made sure that 11 years, nothing has been done with the water that has poisoned and really killed our community and our young people and older people. And so that's intentional. And so when you think about resources in the community, resources is what make a community. And we as communities or as a community in Flint, Michigan, have some tremendous resources. One thing that we could do is boycott and really funnel our money into Black businesses and start creating businesses that's on Miller Road or on Linden Road. They can be in our own community. We can be intentional about our dollars in our community, where we have our own doctors, our own dentists, everything that Black and brown people use every day in their lives. We should be critical about how do we start training our young people to be able to fill those positions, develop relationship with people on the African continent, and bring some of those people on with expertise where we can really build our own communities where we are self-sufficient and we are policing ourselves. So in closing, again, my number is 810-394-4105, mentorroberts@gmail.com. We are engaging. We do greet students. We will be greeting students this Monday at New Standards, 6:45 and 7:45. We are asking our community to come out and be a part of that. We're also engaging in rites of passage mentoring program. And again, we want people to be engaged in those things in our community and stop complaining. Please stop complaining because you are going to die. We are asking our community to choose to live and to be engaging in the process of a hard conversation and healing. My queen.
Well, I don't know how you come second to that.
Oh.
That was great. First, I just want to thank you for welcoming me back and coming to this. Yes, I want to say that I love you all, and I want us to make sure that we are being respectful of each other. I want us to make sure that we are protecting one another because at the end of the day, we are all that we have. And if you are very much in tune with what's going on with this administration from the presidency on down, then you have to know how vital that is that we are protecting each other and that we are respecting each other. So make sure you're doing all things in love and with love. Moving forward with your community and your brother and your sister and just people that you meet on the street, right? I want you to always remember your mental health and that there's no shame in going to see somebody if something is bothering you. If you are having some, I know Chia Morgan is a great resource and you are very close to her and you can absolutely go to her. She will very much refer someone to you. I know that Mr. George Grundy, if you are a vet, has very much resources if you need to go there because vets are very near and dear to my heart as my father was a Marine veteran from Vietnam, right? So those are things that near and dear to my heart. But more than that, just Black people as a whole, we need healing. We all have PTSD just from 400 years ago, right? But I also want you to remember that 1965 was not that far away.
Not that far.
It wasn't that far away. And so, with that being said, we have to make sure that in 2025 that we are cutting that shit off.
Thank you.
We gotta cut it off.
Cut it off.
And so we have to do that by loving each other and being together and banding together and making sure that we do this. So always dealing with fact, not emotion. And when you are addressing somebody, please address it with fact and not emotion. Kind of take the emotion out of it. I bet you have a better conversation.
Beautiful.
Remember when the weather gets better, make sure that you are going outside and you are breathing in that beautiful prana. You are getting some fresh air. You are going outside barefoot and you are grounding. And even right now with the weather being cold, go and hug a tree.
Hug a tree.
And
I
then,
did this morning.
Absolutely. And then hug your family, hug your friends, hug everybody near and dear to your heart. If you haven't talked to them in a while, give them a call. And if they're on your mind, they're on your mind for a reason. You know, maybe you have to have a hard conversation and squash something. Doesn't mean that you'll get back together and you'll be buddy, but at least get it off your chest, right? In a respectful and loving way. That being said, always take care of yourself. Always remember that the water is not clean. Don't drink it.
Don't drink it.
It's not clean. And we have to demand that they fix it. We can't keep asking. We have to demand. And if you have an issue with city council, you gotta show up. Go down there. Make them give you the why to some of these things. And even if you're in Kroger or wherever you see them at, stop them and ask them.
Yeah.
You know, they owe that to you because they work for you.
They work for you.
Secondly, with that being said, stop putting them suckers in office. If you don't like them, stop putting them in office. But that's a different conversation, and we'll get to that. But we love you. Take care. Always move in love and with love. Call somebody you haven't called in a while.
And we always want to make sure I would like my queen to suggest a song. And we always want to leave you guys with some homework. She already gave you a little homework to do as far as engaging with someone that you may have had some beef with, a family member, as far as loving and hugging and asking for forgiveness. But I would like to encourage you to suggest a song or a book, because I'm going to always do the same thing.
Okay, so, all right. So for a song, I was just listening to some stuff here. So what I am going to
recommend.
I am going to recommend. I am going to recommend that you listen to Stevie Wonder. You Are the Sunshine.
Oh, that's a nice one. What book do you recommend?
And what book? What book am I recommending? Okay, so guys, listen. I read all the time, and so I am going to recommend. A book that I am reading right now. It is called Melanin Empath.
Melanin Empath.
Yeah, it's called Melanin Empath, and it is discovery of knowledge is what is the other caveat to that.
Okay.
And so that book. So look that up and read that. Check it out. Tell me what you think. I just started reading that. It's called the Knowledge of Melanin, and it's by Jade. I don't want to mispronounce her name, so I'll spell it for you.
Okay.
Her last name is spelled Asikkiwe. And again, that book is called The Melanin Empath.
And myself, I want to encourage you guys to check out The Last Poets. And again, there's one song, there's a list of songs there. But it's one song that's really interesting. It's called On the Subway. Check that one out. And then for my book, I'm really high on this. I keep telling my sister, Dr. Daniel, Becoming. I would encourage you guys to listen to it on audio, and you have to listen to it twice. But then again, if you like reading, I would suggest that you guys spend some time reading that. And as always, and my beautiful sister Satara, we at Black Lives Matter, we want to thank you guys as always. And again, we are definitely looking for recruitment as far as people come and join Black Lives Matter. And our address is 712 North Saginaw Street. We are looking for our community to be more impactful and be more engaged and stop crying about why something is happening and getting involved to make some things happen. As always, Wakanda out.